You want to see something really scary?
You bet.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, this is really, really scary now.
I trust you.
Hello, Internet fans. It's your old pal Rottin Roger DeMarco here from RepulsiveReviews.com. This week, we're going to talk about John Flynn's 1994 film, Brainscan. Alright, here's the rundown. Michael and Kyle run a horror club. They're obsessed with horror films. They watch horror films during school. They're really into interactive video games. They stumble across a new video game called Brainscan. Neither of them order the game, but they express interest in it. And out of nowhere, the game shows up on Michael's doorstep. The game essentially chooses Michael to play it. This is a lot more than just a video game. Before we get into any of the behind-the-scenes stuff, first, let's take a look at Rottin Roger's Splatter Facts. We have 4 dead bodies. We have 1 side boob. We have 1 foot in the freezer. We have 1 gallbladder, sir. We also have gratuitous warm milk drinking. And that's disgusting. Warm milk? Gross. The methods of death include, but are limited to, stabbing, crushing, car crash. Now this film, to me, is so appealing and so relatable because growing up as a horror fan in a small town, I could see myself as Michael, the main character. I could see the isolation that being a horror fan causes when everyone around you is into sports, partying, or whatever it is that these Neanderthals are into. When I watch this movie, I put myself in Edward Furlong's shoes. I think that is what makes this movie so great for horror fans, because it is not necessarily a perfect film. Some of the CGI is a little dated. But the practical effects are fantastic in this movie, although they're very scaled back, with the exception of the Trickster's makeup itself, which is awesome. It's very punk rock, for around that time, that 1994 time frame. It resonates very well with teenagers of that era, because we had a lot of, heavy metal music. The grunge movement was coming through, a lot of things like that. The technology in the film was so far ahead of its time. I mean, everybody, at least in my circle of friends that were obsessed with this film, we all wanted Igor to make phone calls for us. We all wanted to play these virtual reality games, even though at that point in time it was Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. But we all just kept imagining the progression of video games. Way ahead of its time, because now we actually have things like the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift. We're just getting closer and closer, not necessarily to real-life murder, but we're getting closer and closer to that immersive experience that Brainscan showed us in 1994. Now, T. Ryder Smith plays Trickster. Not the Trickster, he plays Trickster. And this dude is a fantastic method actor. He chews up every bit of scenery that he is in. He outshines Edward Furlong. He just outshines the entire cast. Whenever it's time for him to be on, he is on. Especially the scene where he has to play Primus, dance around. During filming of that scene, he had thrown his back out, so he was miserable. But he still swings from the rafters. He still does a bunch of crazy stuff. And I mean, that's just a testament to what this guy was willing to go through for this role. And it really is a shame that he did not get a franchise, because we need Brainscan 2 and 3 and 4. Death, 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 Part 2. Now apparently, director John Flynn did not get along well with Edward Furlong during shooting. I'm not sure how true this statement is, because in all of the making of footage and commentary, there's really not a lot of mention of them not getting along. Sort of gloss over that and kind of paint this picture that it was an easy time working on the set together. I can kind of see that around that time in 1994, Edward Furlong was 15, maybe. I could see, riding on that Terminator 2 high and becoming, he's in the Aerosmith music videos, which there are posters strewn about everyone's bedrooms. I can see him kind of being like, I'm Edward Furlong, and kind of having an attitude. John Flynn has said that Edward Furlong was not necessarily a fantastic actor during Brainscan, and that he was very unprofessional, and they had to, go wake him up to get him on set and stuff, which, again, he's 15. For whatever reason, because I didn't know any of these things when I grew up watching this film, the character of Michael really resonates with me, and I see a lot more layers to that character than probably are really even there, because I was growing up a horror fan. And I just see the damaged character being portrayed very well. He lost his mother, his father is not around. He immerses himself in these films, these games, this music to hide away from the fact that he essentially has one friend and is looked at like an outcast, looked at like a weirdo. His desire to not necessarily change, but his desire to have a girlfriend, to maybe fit in a little bit, and it's such a conflict with the person that he is versus the person that he wants to be, and the direction he gets pulled by Trickster. There's so many layers in this movie, at least to me. I'm not sure, maybe I'm over-analyzing it because I'm a fucking dork. I love the performance in this movie. I also think that Frank Langella did an awesome job as Detective Hayden. He plays this role straight and narrow, which he could have went very tongue-in-cheek with. He could have camped it up, but he's deadpan. He knows that Michael is hiding something, and he's gonna figure it out. His performance, along with Edward Furlong's performance, the music, just the overall tone of this film, with the exception of the Trickster, because the Trickster brings levity to every scene. No matter how intense the situation is, he's very much a later franchise like Freddy Krueger. He has the one-liners and he's having fun with everything he's doing, even though the tone of this film is very dark, almost depressing, especially with the music added in. The music is a character all by itself. Although I do identify with Michael, I see that he is a bit of a skeevy dude. We were all 15 once. I don't know anybody who set cameras up in their windows to film their next door neighbor undressing. That's got its own category on Pornhub. That's not appropriate 15-year-old behavior. A little strange. You're a little bit of a skeeve, dude, but I like you. While it's not a perfect film, I really, really like this movie, and I would give it 4 out of 5 blood drops, because it's very fun, and it's way ahead of its time. It just holds a special place in my heart. And now that Scream Factory put out the Blu-ray, people don't have to worry about spending $80 on an out-of-print DVD. You can go get the Blu-ray and see it the way it was meant to be seen. Order it from Shout Factory and tell them Rottin Roger DeMarco sent you. I suppose I should watch something else, because after all, there's a lot of movies out there, and somebody's got to watch them. So why not me, right?